Hello everyone and welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are flying in the F4 Phantom and we are over near Langley Air Force Base, as you can see that right down there below us. Across the pond from Bob Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, that area here. So you have Langley over here, and Hampton, Newport News, Pocosin, and a few other places. Up the road, Williamsburg, Virginia, the colonists landed. And famous Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, I believe is still in operation. Have no idea. I don't live out in the area anymore, but back in the 80s, 90s, I lived out in the area, and it was a pretty good area, I'd say. Visited family out that way a few months back here in 2025. It seemed kind of run down. Not sure I'd want to live there now, but a lot of stuff that is no more. So, but that happens pretty much everywhere you go. It just did not seem as nice. So, the area, big on military uh, locations and bases around. As far as, you got Langley over there, Langley Air Force Base, and gonna do a swivel back over here to Hampton, and just off the nose there you can see there's, I believe it's called Fort Story, and it's an actual fort. You can see the moat around it and whatnot. I believe that's still in use. Just back from the old days, back when you had, was it Monitor Merrimack? There's a Monitor Merrimack bridge out there based upon the old Monitor and Merrimack ironclad ships that did battle off the coast there in Virginia. So just gonna circle back around here again, go back over to the other side. And we'll give you a little history of the F4 Phantom, F4 Showtime Phantom. It's a great piece of aircraft. Uh, a lot of those planes that were built in the, 60s, 70s, maybe even back in the 50s, those things were great aircraft. I have people building stuff back in then. They had a supervision of making stuff that just was, it was just great. So here's one of the bases over here. I believe this is Chambers Airfield. I'm not sure who owns it. It's a military field. I can't remember, but there's all the containers over here you can see for shipping. They come in on this side of the water here. They're just gonna circle back around to Chambers and head up the coast. At about 3,600, dropping a little bit, but we got plenty altitude. All right, here we are, 2,500. I'm gonna zoom over Chambers here. And there we are, Chambers Airfield. And we're gonna head over to the shoreline here. There we go. Not too much more than that. We'll black out. There we go. And let's cut back on the throttle here. There we go. Now this is something you don't see every day. An F4 zooming up the coast here in Virginia. give you a little cockpit view here. Here's some LCAC's amphibious base here. I believe this is Little Creek area. Did not know this growing up too much in the area, but you know, one of the SEAL team, I believe it was SEAL Team 6, I don't think they go by that name anymore. They were housed on the East Coast here, and so I was down the waterfront down in Va Beach, or the touristy area, and just chilling, rollerblading, and all of a sudden a bunch of dudes in wetsuits came out of the freaking ocean, and I was like, what the hell is this? So little did I know it was a SEAL team, just going through some of their probably morning exercises or whatnot. I doubt if it was training. They don't do training on the East Coast, not to my knowledge. I think all that's done on the West Coast. So I'm just gonna circle back over here. We're gonna probably go vertical and come back. So over here, that little bridge here, we're gonna come down and around on that. So let's kick in the burners. And just off that way, you'll see Norfolk International Base. I'm sorry, Norfolk International Airport. And we are going to cut the throttle. Go up into a stall at what? 16, 17,000. All right. And light that puppy back up. There we go. Make sure we got some juice. And we're just gonna come back down. This gives you a great view of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, it cuts across the coast here from Chesapeake. It takes you all the way across to a little slither of Virginia on the other side before you hit Delaware. So below that, to the right of the bridge, is Chicks Beach over there. And this is your Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. Back in the day, it was about $8 to cut across here, and you could get up to, it'd save you a little bit of time getting over to, it'd save you a lot of time to get to Delaware, let's just put it that way. Otherwise, you'd have to go up 95, go up 95, go over to, I can't think of the city, and then head back over to the coast. So you'd have to go up and then over, and this bridge just pretty much took you right over. So not uncommon to see a submarine coming across here. I've seen several back in the day when I was living in the area come right across the water here. You know, they have to be up to go over the tunnel, obviously. So and there's your first tunnel right there. So it's bridge, tunnel, bridge. And probably, I would say it's probably like 15, 20 bucks. You're interested, somebody look it up. You can put it down in the comments, just for other people's sake. If you live in the area, you know how much it costs. But I know it used to be like $8 or so. So you take this, and it cuts all the way across this huge portion of water. And so you get a little slither of, you know, Virginia up here. I want to say it starts with an A. Assateague Island or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say it's something like that. Currituck, blah blah blah, and it's still Virginia over here on this side of the pond. You know, you can barely see it back over there. And then as you continue up, I don't remember the highway, what this highway is, but we took it a couple of times to go up to DC to see family back in the day, instead of 95. And I think my dad determined that was about, it took about the same, because if you come up here to get to DC, you have to go back over to the left at some point. But less traffic than 95. Sometimes 95 could be a hassle as far as stop and go traffic. So um, you just never knew. But this part is Virginia as well. So we are just going to kick in the burner again, and we are going to roll the aircraft and give you a nice little view of all these little slithers of land and islands out here. So it's just covered with stuff, right? Yep. All right, I'm gonna take it out of burner, and we're gonna go back across the pond, but we're actually gonna put the burner back on. F4 Showtime Phantom. Let's give you a show, shall we? Sonic boom. We're gonna go back across here. Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel again. And I believe it's 2 lanes going, 2 lanes coming. And I believe they have little pull-offs on these for, people who work there with the tunnel, and they got, vehicles and stuff there in case there's an accident in the tunnel. So that was one section of the tunnel, and here is another section. And I believe they have a little pull-off that you can actually just look out, just kind of catch some sights and stuff like that. So gonna kick it out of burner. We're already across here. I don't know how far or how long it is either. I didn't really look up any of that stuff. There's, again, Microsoft Flight Simulator, just giving you a rundown of the area. And again, this is Chicks Beach right over here. I was there probably back in March, April. And there's your little fishing tour stuff over there. And then you come across the water here. And don't hit any of the hotels or anything like that. And you got a few hotels there, and then all this other stuff is residential. And then down here you have a military base, pretty much. I think we'll just call it Little Creek. I think it was called Little Creek. Here's the military base part right here, but a lot of it is, owned by the military off to the side. And there's the lighthouse right there. I used to go to the beach back here before 9/11. You could go on to the base and go to the beach there. But after 9/11, they kiboshed all that jazz. So let's not crash and burn, Mav. Let's get some altitude. And more beach residential here. Again, we're at Va Beach here. And as you can see, the skyline down there. Start to see some hotels. This is when you get down to the touristy part. So all these are residential still. And then now we'll get into, the Marriott and the Howard Johnsons and the Quality Inns and all those other things here down at Virginia Beach. And it's a lot of that tourist trap. Virginia Beach is okay. Growing up there, I had no comparison of the beach. I just know I wouldn't say it's like the super best beach, but it's affordable. And then once you get past there, we're down, getting close to, Carolina's not too far down below that Virginia Beach area. So just get a little bit of altitude here. And we'll say, what's down there? I think, is that, no, I don't think that's Willoughby. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. It's been years. I should have looked that stuff up, but yeah, no biggie. And we're gonna hit the burners again, and we're gonna circle back. Nice 3G pull, 3.5 Gs, 4G, 3.5. Take it out of the burner. Got a little airfield there. Speed brakes on the F4 are underneath, as you can see. I haven't seen that in a long time. And here is Norfolk International once again. So if you're coming to the area, this is where you would fly in, and pretty much Virginia Beach is right there. So probably 15, 20 minutes, depending on which route you go. And let's just make it a nice round half hour. How about that? But still fairly close. And there's Norfolk Chambers field over there, and I'm going to take you over to Fentress real quick. And I believe that might be straight ahead. So Sonic Boom. And I believe this Fentress airfield is in Chesapeake. So I'll take the burner off. Get me some speed brakes here. Okay, so here's what goes on at Fentress. So this is what I've heard. I'm pretty sure it is the case because I used to live in the area and I could see it happen, but back in the day, this is, and I'm sure they still do it, but you can see it's a runway and a taxiway. Just gonna turn here. This is where the fighter pilots would do their touch and goes on this field here to practice for landing on the aircraft carriers. So this field here would simulate that. So you can see it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. No building around it. You got some houses and stuff here, but they're not building up this area. So any given day, you'd see a ton of fighter planes just coming in, touch and go, bingo. But what I do know is that the F4 can do an inverted flight over Fentress. How about that? Huh? Woo-wee. Yo, some hotshot pilot. All right, and here we have Oceana airfield, and living in the area. My dad actually worked there at Oceana. He was worked in the electrician. He was worked in the avionics. So anytime that, pilot came back saying something wasn't working right or whatever it was, he climbed up in the cockpit, got his little tools out there, tested the leads and whatnot on the circuits, and if it was burnt out, my dad would swap out whatever it was. So um, it was kind of fun living in the area because I got to go to a lot, pretty much all the freaking air shows to see the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds and whoever else was around back in the day. So, all right, and that concludes things for today. Let's hope we can bring this puppy down and in. And we're gonna try. Here we go. I believe the F4, there's the chute. I was gonna just say that. I was like, I think they actually had chutes to help slow them down. That's just insane, right? Where'd the chute go? It disappeared. We're on fire! We're on fire! You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. Yeah, we on fire. We smoked it. And give us just a little bit of view here of the cockpit. Lots of switches, right? I'm not that familiar with the F4 cockpit, but just wanted to show it to you as we taxi in here. And we'll give you a little bit of history of the F4 now.
The McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom is a renowned American supersonic jet developed in the late 1950s. It served as a multi-role fighter, interceptor, and bomber for the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and remains in use by several foreign air forces. Strengths: versatility, powerful engines, and large weapons capacity. Served in demonstration teams like the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels. Adaptable across air, sea, and ground missions. Vietnam War challenges. Designed for high-altitude interception, not close-range dogfights. Early models lacked internal guns and relied on unreliable missiles. Large, smoky airframe made it an easy visual target. Poor cockpit ergonomics and undertrained crews hindered performance improvements. F-4E variant added an internal cannon. Training programs like Top Gun enhanced pilot tactics. Pilots exploited speed and altitude advantages over maneuverability. Continued use as of 2025. Still operated by Greece, Turkey, and Iran. Turkey's upgraded Terminator F-4Es expected to serve until 2030. Reasons for longevity: cost-effective alternative to newer jets, modernized avionics and weapons systems, strategic value in uncontested airspace, e.g., Iran's strike capability. Thank you for watching.